Welcome to the Underwriting DNA training course. Now, this training course is going to be quite different to ones that you've probably undertaken in the past, because it's what we call experiential. There's no lectures or theory. It's all about you having a go with the knowledge you already have and what you can learn from your teammates to make decisions based on real life data and see the outcome. So this is a simulation. You're going to have a fictional world where you are the underwriting managers and you have several classes of business that you are going to underwrite. You need to look at the portfolio as a whole and make strategic decisions about which lines you want to grow, which ones you want to decrease. Why? How? Do you want to increase premiums, reduce deductibles, set lower limits, reduce your risk appetite? These are the types of decisions you're going to make. And you're going to make these decisions based on the data that's available to you. When you go into your simulation, you're going to see lots of data that will give you an idea of what's happened in previous years and also a prediction of what might happen in the future. As a team, the first thing to do is decide which of the lines you want to grow and reduce. Where do you want to invest your capital? And then you can start looking at how you're going to do it. In this video, I'm going to give you an insight into the simulation, so you have an idea of what to expect in advance. Now, I'm going to warn you, when you look at this, there's quite a lot of information at first. So I'd like you to imagine the last time you got a new phone. When you get a new phone, you usually are looking at it and you're not very sure where to start. But once you've had a go with it for a short amount of time, it all starts to come together. The simulation is going to be like that. When we first look at it, it's going to look like quite a lot of information. But once you've had a go yourself and clicked on all of the different areas, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable about it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the microsite. The microsite is something that you can explore in advance of the course. It gives you an idea of what's going on in the market and also an introduction to the simulation itself. So if we open up the microsite, you have an introduction, first of all, to the course as a whole. This tells you what the challenge is, what your targets are. As a team, you'll be competing against other teams in the course. You all have the same information, but you will all make different decisions based on the way you look at that data and also your own individual risk appetites. What you'll need to do is work towards the targets, which are making sure you have a growth in gross written premium, working towards a combined operation ratio of 90% or above in non-cat years. You want a pre-tax return on capital employed by year 6 of at least 15%. And we want to make sure those policyholders are renewing to a rate of 90%. As you go through the microsite, you can see there's information here about the company. There are 4 lines of business that we can look at: commercial property, cyber and liability, architects and engineers, professional liability, miscellaneous medical package. You should check your email to see the ones that we're going to go into within your course. You can then start to have a look at these lines of business in more detail. And you can click on everything orange to get further information. So you can see, for example, within property, we have several lines: chemical and power, office, banks and retail, and manufacturing and processing plants. There's going to be information regarding each of those lines, and you're going to make decisions on them individually. Once you've gone through those different lines of business, you'll see there's some other areas for you to explore. So you can make some decisions around how you want to run the organisation, whether you want to invest in training, in claims, complaints handling, brokers, marketing, reinsurance. There's going to be some key decisions for you to make. This is your first look of what the simulation actually looks like. So when you go into the simulation, you're going to have this initial page here, which gives you a snapshot of the data. This is the key screen. This is where you make your decisions. All of your results will come from the information you're putting in these decision grids. You also have a huge amount of information to explore to find how you want to make your decisions. And I'm going to show you that separately now. Okay, so now we're in the simulation. So you can see the simulation is made up of quite a simple homepage. Within this grid, with all of the different statistics, this is a look at what your current year is, year 0. And we are looking to make decisions that are going to impact the future. We're going to run this in 2 sections. Section 1 will be for years 1, 2, and 3. All the decisions you make will apply to these 3 years of results. At that point, we will stop and we will look at how you've done and compare your results to the other teams. And then we're going to have a look to years 4, 5, and 6. You'll be making your decisions for the final 3 years. And at the end of that session, we will have a look at everybody's results and see which teams have come out on top. The information in pink is the information that's going to give you the targets that you're working towards. So we want to make sure that we're looking at how these are impacted by the decisions we are making. As we saw on the microsite, the decision page itself is quite straightforward. You're really looking for each line of business. So here we're looking at property. We then have offices, banks and retail, manufacturing, processing, and chemical power generation. For each of those lines of business, you're going to be making a decision if these are areas you want to grow or reduce. And then how are you going to impact that? So for example, if we're looking at increasing our premium compared to the market, it might be fair to say we're going to reduce that line a little bit. If we are increasing our deductible, then we might be getting rid of some of our lower losses. If we are increasing our liability, we might be exposing ourselves to higher losses. Our brokerage will impact our competitiveness around the market, and then our risk appetite. So how much risk do you want to take on? What is your appetite to individual risks that you're taking on? These results that I've just gone through will impact your actual results. We also, though, have loss ratio forecasting. This is incredibly important because as you look, where I change the forecasts, you will see the numbers changing on the grid. We want to be able to predict and forecast our losses based on the decisions we are making. If you are increasing the amount of risks you're taking on and increasing your risk appetite, it might be fair to say that's going to impact your loss ratio. And the figures in the chart above depend on the loss ratio. Your loss ratio itself will not impact your results in terms of the winning team, but they will help you predict more accurate results for the decisions that will. Now let's take this in to where we're going to find this information. If we go in here, you're going to see there's a whole range of different reports. So let's stay on the theme of property. When we go into property, we'll be able to see here for each line of business what is currently going on with that book. So how many policyholders do we have? What's our total written premium? How much is that is earned? What's our loss ratio? What's our attritional loss ratio? And we can see this for each of the individual lines. As we then go further down, we can look at the sums insured. And this is really important to look at when you're deciding your limits. So you can see how many risks fall into each bracket. There's lots of information here, and there's more. We can go into our triangles as well and get an idea of how those losses have been in previous years and how they've developed. We can do this for each line of business. There's also some market information for you. So you can get an idea of other considerations that you might want to bear in mind, including what are the average brokerage rates. That's enough information before we get started, I think. Lots of it in there. So it is really worth spending the first part of your session having a conversation with your team about what you think the strategy should be and exploring the data before starting to put some of those decisions into the grid. We'll obviously be there for questions throughout the course, and make sure you take a little bit of time to look through that microsite in advance, because the more time you have in the course, the more time you can put into your decisions, which no doubt will help you make better decisions. Good luck.